James, I know I'm jumping in here because there's so much going on. It seems now that they've been exposed with ClimateGate and then just a crescendo of other scandals that they're going crazy and coming out in the open. In fact, they're in the news, as I mentioned earlier, all over saying eco-fascism is good, we are tyrants, and we're coming for you. I mean, they're really letting us know who they are.
Alex, we're in about 1944, 1945 here. When the bad guys get close to defeat, they get much, much nastier. This is the time when they start bumping off the prisoners. It's when they start, playing really, really dirty as opposed to just quite dirty. All this is a sign of desperation. They failed at Copenhagen. We've got the Cancun extravaganza coming up when precisely zilch is going to happen, because if America won't play the cap and trade game, if America isn't going to impose some kind of tax on carbon emissions, none of the rest of the world is going to do it either. So essentially, the car crash that is Obama's administration has helped bring about the end of the global warming craze. Because if you can't regulate carbon, you're not going to be able to tax carbon. If you're not going to be able to tax carbon, you're not going to be able to control business in the way that the greenies want. Which is why what you see happening already is that they're starting to talk about new threats. They're talking about biodiversity. You're going to hear a lot of this as the fire goes out of the man-made global warming craze. They're going to move on to other things. Species loss. That's going to be the new thing.
Now, James, we've only got the next segment with you. I know you're busy, but maybe we can hold you over because I want to talk about a host of issues with you and also play some of these clips. But when we come back, you posted on the Telegraph, the newspaper, a little boil down where somebody took the 4-minute video of them murdering school children because they won't pay their carbon taxes, and they boiled it down to 1 minute where she actually kills all the children. And you pointed out that, hey, this is a lot better because they're being honest here.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm sure this was the version they'd have liked to put out, but were too tasteful and sensitive to do.
Well, when we come back, we're going to get into that, and I also interrupted you. I want you to get back into the schooling, because this is the big issue. We pay for the schooling, and we just turn our children over to literally be taught to hate themselves, and that committing suicide is good. I mean, in Australia, they teach them to kill themselves. You cannot make this up. And it's ABC, the big Australian broadcasting system. I mean, this is not some backwater, nutty group. This latest video is funded by Al Gore and The Guardian and everybody else. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. James-delingpole is going to be with us for 20 minutes into the next hour. And I want to open the phones up when he's on with us in the next hour. And then after that, when he leaves, we'll continue with calls. Specifically on this subject of all of this literature in the schools and everywhere that humans are parasites and have to be killed. The globalists these New World Order supporters are just coming out with their full religion to everybody now. James-delingpole is an English columnist and novelist. He's published several novels and 2 political books. How to Be Right, The Essential Guide to Making Lefty Liberals History, and Welcome to Obamaland, I've Seen the Future and It Doesn't Work. He's got a new book coming out soon. He writes for The Times, The Daily Telegraph, as a television critic for The Spectator. And we appreciate him coming on. He also has the website james-delingpole.com. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Don't forget, we're ending this special at the end of this week. 4 copies of my preeminent work, the seminal work on the globalists and their population reduction plan, how they're training your kids to kill themselves, how they want to set up a world government, how their own words, how Mao Zedong is their model, from David Rockefeller. This is an endgame blueprint for global enslavement, almost 3 hours long. 4 copies, $19.95. 1 for yourself, 3 to give away. We've got to warn people. Infowars.com or 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. James, this is a short segment, so I want to get these video clips out of the way and then get your take on them after the break. But first, here is Pachauri, the disgraced head of the UN climate panel. Here he is on Al Jazeera admitting they want to go after our kids with their fear-mongering. Here it is.
It's interesting because you're using the media now, obviously, and making the most of the media. What do you see as the tools, the next tools that you could utilize to try to create change?
Children. I think we have to sensitize the young and tell them how their future is going to be affected if we don't take action today. And I think children are by and large very sensitive, and they understand. They know what's at stake. And I think if we can get them to understand the seriousness of the problem, they would probably shame adults into taking the right steps.
You feel they could drive change?
I think they could drive change. And
All right.
they are certainly far.
That's just like the youth brigades in China drove the change. And listen to him carefully. I want to get James's take on this. He's saying they're very sensitive, i.e., we can scare the daylights out of these 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. And the UN-affiliated groups funding videos of the simulated murder of what looked to be about 10-year-olds in this video if they don't submit. I mean, we're letting this Osama bin Laden look-alike sit there and menace and scare our children, James.
Well, you look at any totalitarian regime, what is the first thing it does? You had the communists setting up the young pioneers. You had Nazi Germany setting up the Hitler Youth. One of the first things they do is try to take children away from the influence of their parents and school them in what they believe is the way of righteousness. They indoctrinate them. Of course, this is why people like Pachauri want to get the kids on board, because they want to get kids who are incapable of reasoning their way out of this situation. They want to brainwash them while they're, you know, that famous Jesuit saying, "Give me a child until he is 7 and I will show you the man." This is brainwashing, nothing else, and it is very sinister. But let's not forget that this has always been part of the grand plan. You know, it's what the Club of Rome wanted. It is what the various United Nations documents have advocated. You know, that in order to win this war, we must first capture the minds of the young. We must take over the schools. We must take over the universities. And that way, eco-tyranny lies.
And we can just hand them over to them. We're going to come back after this 70-second break, and instead of playing the whole 4-minute clip, James has linked to one on his London Telegraph page with what their real message is. Somebody's taken it and re-edited it where the teacher kills everyone, you know, not just the kids that don't submit to the tyranny. We'll be right back. Green or we will kill your kids, says Richard Curtis, eco-propaganda shocker. That's the London Telegraph headline with james-delingpole. James, I noticed that they pulled this video very, very quickly, but since then it's been copied all over the internet, and we have copies of it we've been playing here. It seems this has backfired on them, and they have a little apology up on their 1010 website.
Yeah, one of the more amusing explanations I've heard for this disaster was that, it was all deliberate. It was all a calculated campaign to, generate shock and win themselves over new fans. Well, I reckon that theory might be more plausible if they hadn't just cancelled the showing in all the... It was booked to show in all movie theatres. They pulled it from the internet, or they tried to pull it from the internet, but of course lots of people, like I imagine some of your listeners, made copies of it and kept reposting it, behind firewalls if they needed to protect it from being censored, because this is a fantastic document for those of us who believe that the eco-fascist movement is a real danger. This is the evidence that we needed. Before that, they've been quite kind of...
Well, they say they're a danger. They say they want world population reduction, and this is public domain that it had so much taxpayer money in it, as you've reported, from the local town councils, and this was to be put out as a public service announcement. They have no right to pull it now. We have a right to show it.
I agree, but you say that they say this stuff. They do. I mean, if for anyone bothered to read any of the key texts of the Green Movement, they are quite explicit about what they want to do with world population. But in much the same ways, when Hitler in Mein Kampf made it absolutely clear what he wanted, that he wanted to destroy the Slavic Untermenschen, he wanted to wipe out the Jews. He made no bones about this, but people didn't listen because people wanted to believe that the guy was a bit of a joke, and soon reason would prevail. And in the same way with the modern Green Movement, people want to believe that they are good. People project their ideas.
And the left liked Hitler. They thought he was sexy and cool and could get things done.
Well, of course they did, and of course, fascism fascism was part of a global trend. You know, even America had its own form of fascism under FDR. So you know, Italy had Mussolini. These were all movements essentially of the left, and they were all about control. They were all sort of about you know, this view, where the controlling view of society, that we should all be regimented and forced to behave in a particular way. And is this not entirely characteristic of the Green Movement? They want to police how we dispose of our trash, what kind of cars we drive, what kind of food we eat, where it comes from, how many food miles.
And of course, they'll have to surveil it and tax it to make sure we're doing what they say.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but as you said, really the scariest thing of all this is what is going on in our children's classrooms. They are all getting taught this rubbish. They're all getting indoctrinated. And so again, that video was quite revealing. It showed kids being taught by the teacher a particular view of the world, and those children who dissent, what happens to them? Well, they die.
And there's literally hundreds of free video games online and games taught in school where you kill the humans, you kill the carbon blobs. I mean, I see new ones every day like this, what's it called, Super Mega Worm on iTunes for free, where you run around killing people. I mean, it's teaching kids, desensitizing them to literally be psychopathic killers. I mean, the Army 50 years ago came out with papered pop-up targets because they found a lot of troops up close wouldn't kill a fellow human. But they learned by desensitizing, shooting paper targets, they got up to almost 90%. The video game Doom, the Pentagon financed for up-close killing, and it's almost 99% now. One more segment, 15-minute segment with James Delingpole. We'll take a few of your calls. I want to come back and play just a clip of the children being murdered bloodily, like out of a slasher movie, by the loving teacher. She lovingly does it, and everybody goes about their business. This is what has to be done for Earth. We must kill people. It's loving, it's good, it's liberal. We'll be right back with James Delingpole.